Well, it's official. Fred Kerley has officially signed with the Enhanced Games, becoming the very first track and field athlete to do so. What does this mean for his legacy, and what are we going to see coming out of this? Let's talk about it. So, Fred Kerley, who has been no stranger to controversy, has officially become the first athlete to sign with the Enhanced Games. If you don't know what the Enhanced Games are, it is a track and field or a sports organization that's goal is to see what is the very peak performance that athletes are able to compete at. Through this, they allow athletes to take different performance enhancing drugs. Now, it is not just a free range where any athlete can take whatever it is that they would like, but there are limits and guides that they have with specialty doctors that they team with so that they can perform and take these drugs under safe precautions due to what they claim. This league was announced a few years ago. You can see the support by the likes of Joe Rogan and other people that are in the media space, as well as other doctors and people on their website. They have had several other athletes under the swimming category that have signed, and Curley has now become the very first athlete to do so and to sign with them in the track and field space. Now, what does this mean for Fred Kerley? Well, let's just talk about some of the complicated histories that we've seen with Fred Kerley and how he's been no stranger to controversy, and this has really been fueling into his quote-unquote villain arc that we have seen this year. So the controversy really with Fred Kerley begins on the track of him going from the 400 meters all the way down to the 100 meters. A lot of people thought that this was a foolish move back in 2021, and there are a lot of people that had a lot of things to say. Why is this 400 meter runner going to the 100? He shouldn't do this. He's not going to be performing as well as he did when he was in the 400. He's not fast enough, etc., etc., etc. But Fred was able to shut up those haters by eventually going and becoming the silver medalist at that 2021 Olympics, becoming a world champion, and then also another time Olympic medalist in 2024 as well. And so that's where the controversy with him on the track really began. Obviously, he has been one of the most performed or one of the best athletes that track and field has seen over the last few years, with a time of 9.76 as his current personal best. This year in 2025 has been an absolute whirlwind for Fred Kerley. He has been arrested twice due to a variety of different issues regarding people that he has been interacted with in the past, both track and field related and non-track and field related. He had created or originally signed with Grand Slam Track and then was subsequently released from Grand Slam Track following one of his arrests at Miami, which happened the day of the track meet or the day before the track meet with allegedly another athlete that they had. And so there was a large controversy with him no longer being able to perform. Obviously, the year prior, he had some controversy going with the spikes that he was wearing. So he was originally signed with Nike, he then changes to Asics, and then he subsequently stopped running in Asics gear, lost whether it was losing the sponsorship, mutually breaking off that sponsorship, whatever it might have been, and then running under a Nike deal partially, and then eventually not having a sponsor this year at all. He had the controversy of that DQ in New York City Grand Prix where he had fallen when we saw that he was no longer wearing those Asics spikes, and ever since then it has been his name in the news for a variety of reasons, especially for someone that doesn't talk very much to the media. It was an awful lot of heat that he had been getting. And so that takes us to what we have in 2025. So in 2025, he had not the greatest year up to his standards, and that eventually ends in him not qualifying for the USA's not qualifying for the World Championship at USA's in the 100. So he decided not to compete due to injury or whatever the reasons might have been. What it might have been couldn't tell on because he was then later suspended due to whereabouts issues. So he had missed 3 drug tests in a calendar year of 365 days. And when that happens, you're provisionally suspended, and then a regular suspension can be announced at a later date. So that had happened about 2 months ago, right around when the U.S. Championships was announced. This broke the track and field news as it was happening. And so everyone was kind of curious as to what's going to happen next. And then on, September 16th, That's the day that I'm recording this. It's announced that Fred Kerley is now going to be taking his talents to the enhanced games. No suspension or official suspension had been announced by the AIU as to what it's going to be for Fred Kerley, but going after what we've seen with similar suspensions in the past, it was probably going to be around 2 to 4 years, depending on what it would be. That's just a guess. That's a hypothetical, just guessing on what it had been in the past. And so what this means for Fred, I think it shows that he knew what was going to happen, most likely. I think Fred could probably read the writing on the wall that he's most likely going to be getting a 2 to 4 year suspension. And if that's the case, he's going to be missing the next couple years of track and field, and potentially even the next Olympic Games. And so he had to make a decision on, hey, do I risk and try to stay in this traditional track and field lens and then come back in maybe 2028? If that doesn't work out, then 2029 or maybe even 2030, similar to what we're seeing with Arian Knighton? Or do I put all my eggs in this basket of the enhanced games and put my best foot forward to try to give myself an opportunity to compete and even earn up to $1 million if you're able to break Usain Bolt's world record in the 100 meters? And so I think he saw that writing on the wall and was like, look, I'm already limited with what I can potentially do due to some of the issues that he's had in the recent past. Let me put all my eggs in this basket and go ahead and try the enhanced games and see what it is that we can do. Now, there's some pretty promising payouts that the enhanced games are doing, signing bonuses, breaking records, winning, things of that nature. But we've seen issues in the past with recent leagues, obviously Grand Slam Track, which had similar promising deals that didn't always come to fruition. And so we'll have to see, is this going to be any different, or is it going to be much of the same? We don't know, but Fred Kerley's obviously banking, hey, it's the opportunities that I may be having in the regular sport of track, the traditional lens of track and field isn't going to work. This competitor is singing my name. Maybe we try something new, and he decided to go that way. Now, what does this mean for his legacy? I think the track media world and fans of the sport are forever going to have his legacy be tainted, not only from this point forward, but from what it was in the past as well. That's just the way that the cookie crumbles. Should Fred care about that? I don't think so. I mean, obviously he doesn't, because if he did care about what people thought, he wouldn't be signing up to do this. And so obviously he knows what people are going to say. He knows that videos like this are going to be made, and decided that it is still worth going forward and doing the enhanced games, even though people are going to be dragging his legacy in the mud. So I think there's going to be challenges when it comes to, are you one of the greatest of all time? I don't think anyone's going to put his name in that list. Now, you can say there have been other athletes that we still consider to be one of the greatest athletes, some of the greatest sprinters of all time, who have tested positive and have been, suspended for these drugs, when he hasn't yet been suspended, because he was only suspended for whereabouts failures. Look at everyone in the top list of the best sprinters of all time. Everyone but Usain Bolt right now had been suspended for some sort of drug-related offense for many of the top level athletes, and their legacies aren't painted the exact same way. But there's a difference between just testing positive, and then openly admitting and then openly going into another league that is open about drug testing or about drug consumption. And so I think it's just a little bit different. Should it matter too much? I don't think so, but it will. And people will look at it that way as, okay, Fred is admitting that he had drugs. Especially, I think a lot of people will see this as an open admittance that he was doing drugs when he was suspended due to whereabouts failures. We don't know the answer to that. We probably never will, because one, he wasn't tested. He didn't test positive for anything, and we'll just never know the results of that if he was. Is it possible that he was taking drugs during that time? Sure, it's possible, but it's also possible that he was not. And also keep in mind, just because he's in the enhanced games does not mean that you have to take drugs to do this. It just allows you to. So they're not forced to do drugs, but if they would like to, they can. So you could still theoretically be a clean athlete and perform under the enhanced games, potentially break these world records, and still be able to maintain your performance in current track and field if you just never pull out of the testing pool. So it's a possibility. Likely, probably not, but it is a possibility. And so, what does this mean for the sport of track and field? I think that this is the first domino to fall. We had seen a few other swimmers that have gone, and obviously I'm not in the swim world, so I don't know too much about who those people are, but I think this is going to open up the floodgates of who are we going to see for track and field. Now, I think Fred Kerley is a very unique case because the man is already in his 30s, and so if he's going to be taking a 2 to 4 year suspension, he's going to be in his mid 30s, and so he probably saw, hey, by the time I'm coming back, if I were to come back from this suspension, it's going to be really hard for me to be at my top of the game because I'm only going to have maybe 1 or 2 years left anyway. And so will we see people that have been suspended already due to drug-related offenses that are going to join this league? Are they going to be some of the people that might be younger? I mean, there are obviously some younger athletes that are top-level names that I'm sure a lot of people are thinking. There's the Osama Singas as well as the Arian Knightons of the world that are on their younger age of their career that have just been installed with larger suspensions. Then there's also some older athletes that have been suspended for a longer period of time that we may see as well. I think of Blessing Okabare. That might be someone that this could be a potential interest for them. And then of course there's the people that are currently clean athletes that they may see, or that they haven't tested positive for anything. They haven't had any whereabouts failures, and they're interested in doing this as well. I think this is going to open up those floodgates to see who's going to be next, because you're going to have some certain level of stardom for people to really even care about you, and I think Fred does bring that. And so this is an interesting situation to see how this is going to impact the sport of track and field. Now, what's my opinion on Fred going through and doing this? One, it was a surprise, huge surprise for me. My phone was blowing up when this was happening, and so I was very surprised that it happened in the moment. But when I had thought about it, it makes sense. I would say that it makes sense because Fred's not gonna, by the time the suspension comes over, he's not gonna make any more teams. This was probably the last team that Fred made was probably the last team that he would have ever made, just looking at how the sport of track and field is running, and by the time he would probably be coming back. He's not a dumb guy. He probably identified that, and he already had lost his major signing sponsorship with Nike/Asics. So it's like, what else do I have to lose? There's nothing else for Fred to lose. He might as well do it. And so that's where I think it made sense for him. And is this something that I would do? Probably not. But I mean, there's a lot that I'm sure goes into it that I don't know behind closed doors. And so I'd be curious to see what are these drugs that they're allowing you to take? How many of them are you going to take? Because there can be some long-term health effects. And so while you're old in the sport of track and field, you're not old as an individual. You're a father, you have multiple kids, and I know that people are claiming that, yeah, you're going to be taking drugs safely, but steroids are never good for your health. And if I just would be very cautious of people saying, yeah, you can take all these steroids and you're going to be super healthy. Especially when you have young family, there's been plenty of people that have taken things and it hasn't gone well. So I'd just be cautious when it comes there. I think this can also be a potential difficult situation for younger athletes of, now, what does this say? I mean, you were a role model for a lot of track and field athletes that saw you as an athlete that's doing it the right way, that's coming out of difficult situations. He had challenging upbringing. He's talked about that in podcasts, and to have a guy who, he hadn't tested positive for anything in the past, who had gone through all this controversy, had gone through all of this difficulty, to go out and say, I'm going to be part of these enhanced games. What does that say to all of his fans that were watching him? And is it now like, yeah, it's okay. If you want to do drugs, I can now do drugs because one of my favorite athletes, Fred Kerley, is part of the enhanced games and he's doing it. And so I think it can open up a difficult can of worms when it comes to there. But I'm sure these are all things that he had probably thought of. With great power comes great responsibility, and it can become a difficult situation to navigate once you are this big. And yes, it is about money, but it's also about what's that impact going to be outside of the money as well. So that's my 2 cents. Still crazy to think of. I'm sure there'll be more information that'll be coming across over the next couple days. But what's your opinion? Do you think it was a good idea? Do you think it was a bad idea? And will we see any other big name athletes that are going to do this? That's going to be it. Have a good one. Peace.